Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulihil Kareem. Last week we talked about the ma'akhiz of tafsir. Places where we get tafsir from. Because tafsir is an explanation for the Quran, right? And we also talked about the ghayr ma'akhid, the places where you don't look for tafsir. And I'm sure a lot of it just passed over our heads, right? But the point we get from it, I hope everyone's on the same point and the same page, that it's not an ordinary man's job or responsibility or even his capabilities to do tafsir of the Quran. As long as we understand that, that's the main thing, right? And we also talked about ta'awudh and tasmiyah. Ta'awudh, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Tasmiyah, Bismillah, Rahman, Rahim. And why we read a'udhu billahi and Bismillah in the beginning. And I told you it's like takhliyah and tahliyah, right? For example, you want to move into a house. So what you do is you take all the garbage out. You take all, you clean it up. And then you put your furniture. Similar way, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, we're taking shaitan out from our hearts. We're totally taking shaitan out, and Bismillah Rahman Rahim, and then we glorify and we bless our hearts with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. थोड़ी समझ में आ रही है? अच्छा, कुछ समझ में ना आए तो बता. And then we also said the logical reason for reading A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim is because to battle with shaitan is not something very easy. Why do we seek refuge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by shaitan? From shaitan is because while we're reciting, he's always going to make the waswasa. He's always going to whisper into our hearts, right? And so we recite A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim to take him out of our system. And we should also know and acknowledge the fact that just because shaitan comes to us doesn't mean that we don't have iman. Once someone asked my teacher that, Shaykh, sometimes I have different whispers of shaitan coming into my heart. And it's, I'm starting to doubt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how did he come to being and all this. So the Shaykh said that that's actually a good news, that's a bashara, right? You shouldn't think about it, but that is the alama and the sign of iman. Because if you have a thief, is he going to go into a house that has no furniture in it? Or he's going to find a house that has a lot of furniture in it? Shaitan is going to come to that house. So similarly, the sign of iman is shaitan's wasawis and whispers. There's three types of people regarding the whispers of shaitan. The first one is that they don't get waswasa, and that's kuffar. That's their nafs that tells them to do wrong. Their nafs. There's two things. One is shaitan, one is nafs. Right?
Just a second. थोड़ा move कर लो, आगे पीछे कर लो. Echo, right? Echo. Yes. और furniture.
So there's three types of people regarding waswasa. Number one is kuffar. They don't get any waswasa from shaitan, right? Instead, it is their nafs that tells them to do wrong. And we can understand this in the month of Ramadan when Rasulullah says that the shayateen are locked up. But sometimes we still do wrong in Ramadan. How is that possible?
Nafs.
The nafs. Because our nafs is already used to doing wrong, so that's why we do wrong. So now we can understand a better way to understand how people can do wrong without shaitan whispering to them. Right? So that's the first type of people. The second type of people is that group that gets waswasa and they're not backed up with security. Right? You don't have Brother Nazar on your side. Right? So for example, you have a big house and you have the most expensive furniture, but you don't have security. You don't have locks. So shaitan will still, or that thief will still come through your door. And the third type are those people that are known as the sulaha, or the salihin, or the pious people. That wasawis comes to them also, but they have security. They have security. For example, Umar radiallahu anhu. Right? Umar radiallahu ta'ala used to walk in the city of Medina, and shaitan would not even dare to step in that road. Instead, he would take a different route. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that with every person there is an angel and there's a shaitan. With every person there's a shaitan and there's an angel. The shaitan commands us to do bad, while the angel tells us to do good. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said every man has a shaitan with him and every man has an angel. So one of the sahabi asked that, even with you, Ya Rasulullah, you have a shaitan too? So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, I have a shaitan also. But my shaitan became Muslim. Muslim. So this is the reason why we read A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim. A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim means that I seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help, right? From shaitan, ar-rajim, the rejected one. Ar-rajim, the rejected one. And then we recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now you'll be surprised that the ba in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim comes for about 10 different things. Ba in the Arabic language comes for about 10 different things. Some say more. What does Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim mean? It literally means the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Right? That ba in the beginning, what does that ba stand for? Because I just told you that it comes for it comes for a number of things. Mufassirin say that the ba in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim comes for 3 reasons. Either it can come for لِلتَّبَرُّكِ, to give barakah. In that meaning, it will mean that with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's barakah, who's Rahman, who's Rahim. One is tabarruk. The second one is ma'iyya, which means, the literal meaning, ba means to join 2 things. Ba means to join 2 things. So, with the name of Allah, I start who's Rahman and who's Rahim. So that's the second meaning. And the third meaning, you can also use al-isti'ana, to seek help. I seek help in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's Rahman, who's Rahim. So 3 basic meanings that ba comes for here. Right? And all these 3 are used in different occasions. For example, you know, a lot of us, you know, for example, if we're going in a car and for example we hit a huge bump or something, we say Bismillah. That over there we don't even know it, but we're taking the meaning of al-isti'ana, getting help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see? So in different situations we used one of the 3. Either it's tabarruk, taking barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name. Or it's al-isti'ana, to seek help. Or it's ma'iyya, which means I start with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's Rahman, who's Rahim. So the ba is done. समझ में आ रहा है
थोड़ा उर्दू में एक्सप्लेन कर लो क्योंकि
बिस्मिल्लाह रहमान रहीम की हम तफसीर कर रहे हैं कि बा जो है बिस्मिल्लाह में बा जो होता है वो 3 चीज़ों के लिए आता है. एक जो होता है, यानी हम किस तरह से बिस्मिल्लाह रहमान रहीम का तर्जुमा करेंगे, है ना? तो बा जो होता है 3 चीज़ों के लिए आता है. एक आता है इस्तिआना के लिए, यानी मदद तलब करना अल्लाह ताला से. उसका माना ये फिर बेटा कि मैं अल्लाह ताला के नाम से मदद तलब करता हूँ जो रहमान जो रहीम है. दूसरा माना ये कि तबर्रुक, मैं बरकत हासिल करता हूँ अल्लाह ताला के नाम से जो रहमान जो रहीम है. और तीसरा माना ये मईया, यानी अल्लाह ताला के नाम के साथ मैं शुरू करता हूँ जो रहमान जो रहीम है. Now we come to
Ma'iyya means Allah's name, right? Ma'iyya
Ma'iyya means the literal meaning of ba, which means together.
Or together.
Together. So I start with the name of Allah. Bismillah is now done. Now we come to Allah. Allah subhanahu, the name Allah is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's, is it the quality name or the ismu dhat? Which one? Is it ismu sifa or ismu dhat? Ismu sifa, ismu dhat. Ismu sifa is the quality name. And ismu dhat is the original name. For example, some people call me Maulana, some people call me Mufti, some people call me Sheikh, some people call me teacher. It's all ismu sifa. But my real name is Taha. This is ismu dhat. दो चीज़ें होती हैं ना किसी के नाम में या अलक़ाब में, एक तो होता है इस्मु सिफ़ा और एक होता है इस्मु ज़ात. अल्लाह सुब्हानहु व तआला के लिए लफ्ज़ अल्लाह इस्मु ज़ात है, और रहीम, रहमान और गफ़ूर, मतीन, ये सारे जो है इस्मु सिफ़ा कहलाते हैं. इस्मु सिफ़ा. In the previous nations, the word for Allah was always close to Alif, Lam and Ha. Then the name Ismu Dhat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even in the previous nations, the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was always close to Alif, Lam and Ha, with a bit of changes. That's one thing for love Allah. Also the mushrikeen in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to believe in Allah. It's not that they didn't believe in Allah. They used to believe in Allah, but with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala they believed in other idols. Which is why in the Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, quoting the kuffar, وَمَا لِيُقَرِّبُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفَى. Right? That we only worship these idols to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even they believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they believed that there were other gods as well. Coming back to the point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the word of Allah is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ismu dhat. And there's a famous story regarding this ismu dhat. There was a famous Nahwi scholar. Nahwa is Arabic grammar. It's the science of Arabic grammars, which is called Nahwa. And the famous Nahwi scholar of his time, whose name was Allama Sibway. His name was Sibway. He was a great imam in regards to Arabic grammar. But his aqaid were a little twisted. He was a Mu'tazili by aqidah. He was a Mu'tazili in regards to his beliefs and aqaid.
What is Mu'tazili?
Mu'tazili, we'll explain this after inshallah. Right? What was I saying? He was a Mu'tazili by aqaid, right? And when he passed away, one of his friends saw him in a dream, and he was in a very good state. So his friend asked him that, how are you in this good state? For what work? What amal did you do that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted you this elevated spot, this daraja? So he said, it's because of my Arabic grammar. So his friend said, your entire work of grammar, or was it some part of it? So Allama Sibway said that not my entire work of grammar, but it was one rule, just one rule I wrote for the Arabic grammar. And what rule was that, his friend asked? So Allama Sibway said that when writing the rules of Arabic grammar, I wrote this one ruling where I said that the word of Allah is ismu dhat. For that reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can never have tathniya. It can never have a dual. There can't be anyone like him. Nor can there be any ismul musaghar out of Allah. Ismul musaghar is, for example, we heard the name Junaydun. We heard the name Junaydun. Junaydun is the musaghar of Jundun. Jundun means soldier, Junaydun means small soldier. Right? So, Junaydun fu'ailun. You're kind of twisting it a little bit. Right? So, the Imam said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name, Allah, is Ismul Dhat. Therefore, it can never have a dual. You can never have a second Allah. And similarly, Ismul Dhat can never have, this Ismul Dhat can never have a musaghar to it. It can be Allah and a small Allah. It remains Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala liked this so much that He forgave me. Right? Now we did the love of Allah. Bismillah so far is covered. Coming to Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. I start with the name of Allah who is most Rahman and He is Rahim. Now why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring two words that come from Rahmah? Rahman also comes from Rahmah. Rahim also comes from Rahmah. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring two? It's an obvious reason. It's for mubalagha. Right? To prove your point properly. To get your message across that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Rahman and He's Rahim. So this telling you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even on the arsh, you know, it is written that my ghadab and my anger is passed by rahmah. My rahmah has surpassed my ghadab and anger. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rahmah is over His anger. Which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought Rahman together and Rahim. But the question is between Rahman and Rahim, is there any difference? Between Rahman and Rahim, is there any difference? The difference between Rahman and Rahim is that they both come from Rahmah. But the difference is that Rahman means, in Urdu how we say,
Rahim karne wala.
Rahim karne wala. But the slight difference, Rahim
Aam ke liye.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Rahman is Aamur Rahmah. Jiski Rahmat Aam ho. That's Rahman. Right? And Rahim,
Khas.
Khas. Or in Arabic how you can say Tamur Rahmah. Jiski Rahmat Tam ho, Puri ho. Right? That's a slight difference. And that is the reason why sometimes you will hear someone's name is Abdul Rahim. Some people call him Rahim. You can call him Rahim because that, even though that is the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but though that is that name which is not khas with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see? Because Rahman, you can't name someone, you can say Abdul Rahman, but you can't say, hey Rahman, come here. Why? Because Rahman means whose rahmah and mercy is aam, is general, is for everyone. And there is no man in earth that can accommodate everyone. In regards to Rahim, Rahim means to be very loving, to be very compassionate. But it doesn't have to be with everyone. It can be with one person. Right? So one of us may have a friend who we're very nice to. And every time we see him, we have love for that brother. Right? Which is why we can call the person by Rahim, but we can't call him by Rahman. Similarly, in the different names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the same rule applies. For example, Ra'uf. Ra'uf is also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name. Right? But it's also Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's name. And when Ra'uf is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's name, we understand as Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah that even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Ra'uf can be used for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it can be used for the rest of us. Right? Are we on the same page? समझ में आया थोड़ा बहुत? रहमान और रहीम में जो फ़र्क हम बता रहे हैं. रहमान का मतलब जिसकी रहमत आम हो. रहीम जिसकी रहमत खास हो एक शख्स के लिए. और इसी वजह से हम किसी शख्स को रहीम करके पुकार सकते हैं. Even though it's better to call Abdul Rahim, right? Because now you're praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly, right? But हम रहीम करके पुकार सकते हैं, लेकिन किसी का नाम हम रहमान नहीं ले सकते. अब्दुल रहमान कह सकते हैं, रहमान नहीं कह सकते.
जैसे भाई का नाम अब्दुल कद्दूस है, कद्दूस नहीं कह सकते, अब्दुल कद्दूस.
Yeah, like that.
अब्दुल कद्दूस है नाम माशाल्लाह.
अच्छा अब्दुल कद्दूस.
इसके नाम पे एग्जांपल है.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Rahman in the sense that He provides for everyone. His rahmah is for everyone. How is it for everyone? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides for Muslims and He provides for the kuffar. He provides for the fusaq, He provides for the munafiqeen. He provides for everyone. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rahmah is very aam. Right? Which is why mufassirin say that the entire tafsir of the Quran al-Kareem is found in the last couple surahs of the Quran. For example, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ, in the last couple surahs of the Quran. And the tafsir of the last couple surahs of the Quran is found in Surah Al-Fatiha. And the entire tafsir of Surah Al-Fatiha is found in Bismillah.